Japan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck, you may be gone or luck. Hooray for Hollywood.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast. Damn you, Hollywood! And here's your host, Robert Winfree. Yay!
Yay. Well, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, whenever you happen to be listening to this, we are reviewing F9, which is not only an FU to the fans, it's been an FU to this podcast. We're on our third attempt to get this thing done.
Yeah, this is the podcast that is absolutely cursed. Last night, recording 1, there was a blackout. Recording 2, Robert had equipment malfunction. I'm guessing we're up to tornado?
That should be next, yes, but given that neither of our locations are due for a tornado, that troubles me.
Well, I mean, this is Florida. The random acts of weather violence happen all the time.
Tornadoes have happened here in Utah, just, again, they're a bit of a rarity. Well, again, we are talking about F9 tonight, the Fast Saga. This
is have you seen the pitch meeting yet? Is that what we're going with now?
I haven't seen the pitch meeting yet. I'm going to look it up after this. I wanted a bit more just specific clarity on this. Now, every one of these movies has been covered on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network in some capacity. There are 2 episodes of The Long Road to Ruin. That's myself and Sean Comer. We talked, the first episode is 1, 2, and 3, and what a clown fiesta those second 2 movies are. And then, look, the best thing that came out of Tokyo Drift is the long-running gag between Sean and myself about which part of the giant continent of Asia Dom Toretto happens to be in at the moment.
Yeah, I listened to you guys talk about it. I'm about halfway through the second episode. I'm up to you guys talking about 5. And yeah, you guys doing the bit about Dom racing through Asia to get to Han is pretty funny.
Again, Asia's huge. It's enormous.
So my experience with this was I was supposed to take the kids on the last day of school to go see it. And in preparation for that, we marathoned the franchise. Started with the first 2 back in January. And then about 8 weeks before June 25th, which was the new date, after they moved it off the May 28th date, every Friday night for 8 weeks, they showed a previous Fast and the Furious movie, starting with the first one. And so we skipped the first 2, obviously. We picked it up with 3. My kids love Tokyo Drift, but I think that's because they have this weird fascination with Japan. Now,
if you're a Japanophile or a very small child,
yeah,
Tokyo Drift is a lot of fun.
Yep.
If you have 2 functioning brain cells to rub together, not so much.
So I'll just kind of walk everyone through this. They liked the first one. They asked me what it was going to be about, and I said it's about stealing stuff and racing cars. And they were like, okay, we can handle that. My daughter struggled with the first one because of the incessant shots of wiggling ass. Yeah, I said, get used to it.
I said that before. That movie's more music video than it is actual movie.
The second one, they were like, okay, it's fine. My daughter hates Tyrese. She hates the Roman character, so she struggled with that one. My son thought it was fine. Again, he's a child. They love Tokyo Drift. They both hated 4. They were both like, they liked the ending, but by the time they got to the race through the caverns, they were like, we're done with this. Move on already. 5, they almost didn't finish after 4. They were like, we're done with this. How many movies do we have to go to? And I'm like, well, you got to get to 8, first of all, to get to 9. But aside from that, I'm like, look, I promise you it gets better with 5. They were like, we believe you. And I promised them that the best part of 5 was dragging the safe around Rio.
That's true.
Which is still my favorite part of this whole franchise. Them destroying the city.
5 is, I think, unequivocally the best entry into this entire franchise.
And that turned them around. They liked 5. 6, they were like, like, okay, this is a lot of the same stuff now.
Longest runway in human history for the finale sequence of that movie.
My son actually had a really funny thing about 6, and I largely agreed with him. 6 is about where the movie sort of abandons, because I mean, if you think about sort of the progression, the first ones, and you and Sean talked about this, so I'm really going to make this brief, especially because God seems to not want us to finish this podcast.
Only he wanted the movie not to be made.
And God has weird predilections, from what I understand.
That's true.
So, the first one, it's about street racing, and there's a heist in there to sort of zhuzh it up. The second one, it's kind of a redemption story for the Paul Walker character, for Brian. And because they didn't know where the series was going and they didn't get Vin Diesel back, they had to replace him, and they replaced him with Tyrese. Throw that one away. The third one, I was like, well, we got to slap the Fast and Furious name onto something. And we have this car movie about drifting, and that's kind of the Fast and the Furious, and there's nothing to do with anything.
I mean, in fairness to Tokyo Drift, it probably does have the best racing sequences of any of them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think somebody I like those Fast and the Furious movies. I want to make one, but about drifting. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to call it a Fast and Furious movie because that's what's popular.
Yeah.
There's no other way that movie comes into existence. And then, as you guys talked about, they kind of rebooted the whole thing with the fourth one. Where I'm going with this is 4 and 5 tell kind of a cohesive story about losing Letty and what, the loss of what Letty does to the crew. And then they're deciding to kind of go on. And it's when 5 is about like one last job, right? Mm-hmm. They're on the run. They're going to do one last job. They're being pursued by the police, by Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. And so in that sense, they're kind of 1 and 2 of the same parts of the same story. And it's still about essentially this group of car racing thieves.
Yeah.
It's when we get to 6, 7, and 8 that this becomes James Bond on meth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about right.
And that's where my son kind of was like, when did they? He's like, because he had watched the cartoon Spy Racers, and he was like, when did this turn into Spy Racers? It turns into Spy Racers at about 6. It's also the conclusion of the Letty story. If 4, 5, and 6 could be sort of wrapped up in a nice little bow, it's sort of the Letty trilogy. She dies. They're reacting to her death. She comes back, but she's evil, and then she has to be redeemed. So it's a nice little Star Wars redemption of Darth Vader story there. 6, 7, and 8, and now 9. They're international. they're international mercenaries doing spy stuff, and it has nothing to do with anything that this franchise started out as. And that's kind of where we are with F9. And I'll let you get into the plot synopsis now. But I think sort of my own take on this series is I liked 4 and 5 as one story. Once you get to 6, either you're really into like James Bond on Nas, would even be a better way of describing it, or you're not. If you're into like just street racing stories, this is not going to be for you. If you're into over the top stupid action movies with a bunch of people utterly unqualified to do action missions, then sure, they're great fun. If you don't like that sort of thing, these are just a pill to get through. Just hard, just utterly ridiculous. And by the end of it, you're like, I need to go, I need to go do something with myself. I need to go shower or something.
Yeah, I have to warn you all about Fast 9. This movie made me physically ill. I was feeling pretty fine all day. I go to the movie theater to watch this. As I'm buying my ticket, my nose starts leaking like a faucet. And it doesn't stop until after the movie ends.
Nice.
I had a spare cloth mask.
That line makes me wish we were on Rotten Tomatoes. This movie made me physically ill. My nose dripped until it was over.
I feel like I had an allergic reaction to everything that this movie is.
Well, what is this movie, Robert?
Well, for starters, it's 145 minutes.
Well, you need time to process all the stupid action you're seeing on screen.
This thing felt like it was 3. Like, this movie feels longer than it is.
That whole I want you to do the plot synopsis so we can get into this, but that whole like beginning process where they're trying to get to the down plane to get the MacGuffin, that leads into them meeting Jacob for the first time, went on for 5 hours.
Among other things, there's so much. Well, all right. So we start with a flashback to the death of Jack Toretto, Dom, and we come to find out Jacob's father. Mark, this poor bastard is Uncle Ben. He's the only death in this franchise that actually sticks.
Wait. Is he this?
It was all me, James. It's always been me, the author of all your pain.
No. I appreciate the reference, but
just wanted to play that.
Here's what I mean. Everybody else in this franchise is a comic book hero, right?
Right, sure.
So death doesn't actually happen or matter.
Right.
Someone dies, and then 2 movies later they come back. I'm entirely prepared for Gal Gadot to be in the next one. Like, that's happening.
If they can get her off the Wonder Woman schedule or whatever else she's working on these days, because she's a hot actress, I can't imagine why they wouldn't bring her back, because death is meaningless.
Yes, except for Dom's father, for Uncle Ben.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Uncle Ben is the only one who stays dead.
Sure. Can I ask a real quick question? Because I haven't looked at the cast list. Did they digitally de-age Vin Diesel into a completely other human being, as with John Cena, or are those 2 different actors? No,
that's someone else. That is an actor by the name of Vinnie Barrett.
Okay. Same thing with
Bennett,
young,
excuse me.
Same thing with young John Cena.
Yeah, that's Finn Cole.
Okay. Oof. They tried. I mean, as far as casting younger people, how the one guy grew up to be Vin Diesel with completely different skin complexion, I'll never know. But at least the other kid looked like a zitty John Cena.
Should have hired. No, I'm not going to say it. It's too bad a joke. I'm not going to say it.
Were you going to say they should have hired the black guy that looked like John Cena from the Nexus?
No, that's a step too far. I was going to say they should have hired Alex Riley.
That would have been another good one. All right.
That's an inside wrestling joke. Anyway, so we flash back to the fateful racing day when Jack Toretto is killed on the track, and with great power comes great responsibility. I'm not going to get off of this. I can't unsee it. We splice in these flashbacks throughout the rest of the movie, so I'm going to just state the entire flashback sequence here. We flash back to, again, his father dying in this horrible racing accident. The other racer who was involved in the crash, annoying Dom and Jacob, and Dom beating his face in with a pipe wrench. Shown off screen because, well, we'll show a lot of crap in this, but no, not an actual... You can't hit someone with a foreign object unless it's a car, because then they are miraculously saved from falling. Dom is sent to jail for a bit. Jacob stays out. While in jail, Dom hooks up with the Dominican brothers, who we've seen in a few of the other movies. And they let him in on what happened, basically, to his dad. There was a hairline crack in the fuel line, which is a trick that racers will use when they want to throw a race. They'll put one in there, and then the car malfunctions, and, well, I was going to win, but gosh darn it, there was a mechanical issue, and who could have seen it coming?
Right.
The downside being, if there happens to be a spark near the leaking fuel line, you get a fireball, which is unfortunately what happened. But Dominic deduces that Jacob is the one who had cracked the fuel line he can't imagine why. So as soon as he gets out, he confronts his brother. You killed my father. He was my father too. Don't we have a sister around here somewhere? No one knows.
She was home playing with Barbies at the time.
Again, no one knows.
Mm-hmm.
He challenges him to a race, and if you lose, you just keep on driving. You're not my brother anymore, and if I ever see you again, I'll kill you. And, of course, because Dominic Toretto and racing, he wins. So young John Cena drives off into the night to be sucked into the terrible world of professional wrestling. Anyway, he again heads out. He becomes an international spy, because this is what happens to the lost people of East LA, apparently.
they all become mercs.
Not like there's a huge issue of prison overpopulation or whatnot spawned by these people. No. International spy.
Right.
Jeez. We find out later, I'm just going to do this now because it's stupid. It's painfully obvious to everyone that isn't Vin Diesel, but his father was throwing the race intentionally and had Jacob put the crack in there so that his car would flame out because they're in debt to nebulous characters for nebulous reasons, and throwing the race would help him out in this particular instance. So again, things just went horribly wrong.
If you've seen the origins of Daredevil, or just about half of the action stars out there, it's all the same thing. Family member in debt to mob. So we'll throw competition in order to get out of debt. Things go badly.
And something along the way goes wrong.
Yeah.
So we pick up a contemporary story with Dom and Letty retired, raising their son Brian, before Roman, Tej, and Ramsey arrive with the announcement that Mr. Nobody, the great Kurt Russell, had finally captured Charlize Theron, but his plane was hijacked and taken down into the jungles of Central America by an unknown figure that you can't quite see on the monitor, which is accurate because you can't see John Cena. And that's the last time I'm going to make that joke. Everyone except Dom starts to head out. Dom has kind of decided, no, we're retired. I've got a son.
But Letty misses that life, don't you see? She's restless, Robert Winfree.
Yeah.
She grew up an adrenaline junkie. She was attracted to an adrenaline junkie, and she cannot just exist on the quiet life on the farm. But she is in conflict, don't you understand?
Please stop.
With Vin Diesel, who only wants to raise his son and feels his overbearing need to protect those around him, including Letty from previous movies and now transferred to his son Brian, overwhelms the entire story.
No, it doesn't. Please stop. Dom is hesitant for all of less than 5 minutes before he takes another look at the video and recognizes the same silver cross that he wears in it and goes, oh, this must be my long estranged brother, who I've simply never brought up in 8.5 previous movies.
Not any number of people who bought a plastic, coated silver necklace you can buy in any bodega across America and some parts of the world.
No. This must be my long-lost brother,
sure,
who neither myself, my girlfriend, or my sister ever brought up to any of the people that we all call family.
Look, Robert, not everyone wears a cross, okay? They're not very popular, especially among...
This can't be a common jewelry adornment amongst certain subcultures.
Look,
no.
Nobody wears a cross, okay? I don't know, like, the Christians of this world, very small group of people. Hardly anyone's heard of them.
They're lucky it wasn't Rey Mysterio.
Booyaka.
Oh, God. Anyway, he sees this, realizes it's his long-lost brother, and heads out on to join the mission. They go to the jungles. They find the downed plane, but no sign of any people, dead or otherwise. They break into this black box on the plane, which has half of a sphere. Because nothing ever good came from half of a sphere. They're then ambushed by the local military government, the local military, because Central America is unstable, don't you know? Which isn't actually true, depending on where you are. Chase through the jungle ensues, and who shows up but John Cena? Of course, right, the only other man on God's green earth who would take a muscle car into the unpaved, muddy jungles of Central America.
Listen, but Jacob, we have this Jeep. It's plated with armor. It has a turret gun. I understand what you're saying, but vroom. We hear you, but unpaved road? No, still vroom.
They drive through a minefield because this is how mines... where Roman nearly died. I feel like Tyrese read the original script for this and said, I don't do anything. Why am I here?
Right.
And they rewrote bits. Well, you're going to be the self-aware character. And he went, what? I'm not self-aware as a human being. What do you mean my character's going to be self-aware?
So they went to him like, have you seen Deadpool? I'm sure one of my children has. Okay, well, Deadpool breaks the fourth wall a lot. You're going to be Deadpool in this movie. And he went, does it mean more money? And they were like, probably. And he said, fine.
More or less. Anyway, he almost dies but doesn't. In fact, again, ludicrous Tej looks at him and goes, how are you not dead? And he just kind of goes, yeah, be dead.
Oh, that's right. They drop a car on him.
Right in front of him. I assume. He is shot at by 25 other people with AK-47s while he has no cover in the middle of a room. He manages to outgun all of them with nary a scratch. He has been blown up, has a armored vehicle dropped on him, and when asked, how are you not dead? He goes, car.
That's right. And the part of that was his vehicle got wedged between
it got blown upward and then it fell between a couple of rocks and they're falling in. He climbs out and scampers away and then it drops onto the mine that was right under them and poof.
Right. And then like something then the what do you call it? The thing falls on him. It looks like it falls on him. A la Wile E. Coyote. Complete with oh no sign.
Yeah.
And then he walks from around it, having faked out the audience.
Good job.
And Tej goes, "How are you not dead?" And he says,
"He doesn't even have a line. He goes, I give it a shit." Yeah. And then they get in the car and keep going. Like
he essentially looked at the camera and went, "Spaghetti."
They wind up crossing a rickety bridge that falls halfway through the Jeep going across it, but it can still drive up the God.
There was no way they didn't watch this while watching other movies. And this one, they saw what's his face from the Hobbit movies do the bit where he's running across falling stones.
Like when Legolas does that in Battle of the Five Armies.
Right. They were like, okay, we got to put that in the movie somehow.
We'll just do that with a car.
Yeah, like that, but car. Yes.
And then this is all followed up by Dom driving onto one of the support cables after John Cena launches himself off the edge of the cliff and is picked up by a drone with a magnetic arm.
Look, I don't want to get into a Mr. Wizard thing with you, so I'm almost afraid to say this, but in the entire sequence of things we have described and we are about to describe, that was the only believable thing.
It's not actually believable when you understand the weight of the car in question relative to the size of the plane, but I will give you that is the most believable thing out of everything that just happened.
And was going to happen.
Because then he drives up, again, the bridge, one of the posts is gone, the other one still has its cable out. And he drives up, knocks this over, the cable gets stuck behind the wheel, which I'm sure would not have just been yanked off the axle. And they swing over.
Tarzan swing. It's known as the Tarzan swing.
They Tarzan swing into the other cliff, roll the car several times, and I'll just look at each other and go, boy, wasn't that Jacob back there?
Do you remember when we reviewed Spectre and I threw my hat down and I said, I have had it with these James Bond movies?
Yes.
Because he rolls a car in that movie and I go, we are led
No. That wasn't Spectre. That was Casino Royale when he survives that.
Oh, okay.
When he survives like a 1800 rotation.
What am I? But it was Spectre where I lost my mind.
Spectre was, I forget the stunt specifically, but I remember it.
Okay.
You're like, no.
He's dead. And my problem was you were expected to believe that there's a sense of gritty realism in at least the what's the actor's name? Help me.
Daniel Craig.
In the Daniel Craig Bond series, beginning with Casino Royale, there is something to approximating an element of gritty believability in these movies. And he should have died in Casino Royale when he rolled the car. But okay.
I could see him surviving the car crash. People have walked away from that, but yeah,
sure.
as it goes on.
But by the time we got to Spectre and whatever it was in Spectre that made me lose my mind, I was like, that's it. We have entered cartoon world now. This movie made that look like a documentary.
Yeah.
Like by the time 100%. We got through that sequence, I was like, oh, okay, we're cartoon superheroes now. Got it.
Yeah. So they try to figure out what's going on because in the scheme of that, Jacob, John Cena, did in fact steal the half of a sphere. So they head to some encoded coordinates. That's Mr. Nobody's personal hideout. They decode some more stuff and they figure out what's going on. You see, John Cena, we figure out who he's working with. He's working with, who is it? He's working with this guy named Otto, who's
Rich German fella whose father is a diplomat.
A dictator. He's the son of a small country. He's the son of a dictator of a small country. They never say which one because, of course, not.
Let's say it's Lithuania, Luxembourg. V for Vendetta.
Look, it's Latveria, and they're backdooring Dr. Doom in.
Good. Perfect.
Is it Doom's from Latveria, right? And then Latvia is the real country. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I remember that. That's what they're doing. He is son of Victor Von Doom, and a giant disappointment.
Now pending the next Marvel Fast and the Furious crossover.
No. He is Otto Von Doom now in my head. That's what he is.
Okay, I'm good with this.
Yeah. He's working with him to collect this doohickey. It's a MacGuffin. They call it Project Ares. It's meant to be a sequence of computer code that is so potent a hacking device, it renders vulnerable anything that runs on binary. This is asinine. Okay?
We've evolved past the EMP being the MacGuffin in every movie, and now we're into I must control all the computers.
Again, this is asinine.
We've actually round back because this was the premise of Terminator.
Yeah, kind of.
And so now we're back to AIs. Good.
Again, bear in mind, in the real world, you can't get Android technology to talk to a Mac. But this thing...
We're on our third attempt at a video podcast.
But there exists the technology for this item to simultaneously hack all known computer software.
Right.
Whatever your
Linux,
coding,
DOS, Mac, whatever.
Highly encrypted. Again, you can't get Russia, in some cases Russian hardware to talk to American hardware when it comes to military grade applications. This thing, we are the ultimate counterpart. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're planning on getting this, launching it into the sky, and becoming the superpower of all superpowers. Ugh. Sorry, I died there from boredom. This is a boring movie. Just heads up, everyone. Boring movie. Anyway, the other half of this particular device is located in Edinburgh. So they head to there, but the good guys don't know where he is and where he's going. So they split up because they have a couple of problems to potentially solve. Dom goes to talk to Michael Rooker. Because, of course, our international mercenary who spent decades doing this would just tell his adopted father figure, who he abandoned after a couple of years, where he's going on a top secret mission.
Dad, I just want to let you know, I'm going on an international super spy mission. I promise to be safe. Okay, son. Bye.
Yeah. So that leads them to London, because we wanted to get a Helen Mirren cameo, which is fine. I don't object to that. She actually has the only decent character line in this entire godforsaken movie, because it actually makes sense. When she tells Dom, family is the most important thing, and if you let that turn into hatred, there is nothing more potent. This only makes sense for her character because she has gone out of her way to make sure her two sons and her daughter, who we've seen in previous movies, all at least get along.
Right.
She is the impetus for Deckard trying to avenge Luke Evans' character, whose first name I can't remember.
It doesn't matter.
The other Shaw brother. And then in Hobbs and Shaw, she smacks him in the back of the head a few different times and goes, "Help your sister." It's fine, Ma. Geez, stop hitting me. So she's at least consistent in a little bit of her character belief system. Anyway, she drops Dom off to meet both Otto and Jacob. He's arrested, but it's a fake out because
Cardi B.
Sure, that's who that is. I genuinely don't know. I'll take your word for it.
I like how the progression of this movie is going, though. Like, we need to get The Rock. We need to get Gina Carano. We need to get Ronda Rousey. We need to get Cardi B.
Well, we're circling back because originally it was, we got to get Ludacris.
Right. Yep, this movie has come full circle. I suddenly love this movie.
Shut up. You do not. We both know it. Anyway, while they're doing that, our three other people head to Germany where they meet Lucas Black from Tokyo Drift. Lucas Black, by the way, has not aged a day in 20 years, which is not a compliment to him now, but that 20 years ago he looked like a 45-year-old man. And he still looks like a 45-year-old man now that he's, a 45-year-old man. Where they get some gear, etc. Anyway, they all meet up in Edinburgh where there's a chase, because of course there is. There's magnets that are more powerful than the laws of physics allow for.
A magnet? Robert Winfree, how the fuck do they work?
Mark, somebody in this movie saw Breaking Bad and the only thing they took away from it was magnets. Which just depresses me on so many levels. So there's a big chase. There's a fight between Dom and Jacob. It all goes sideways because the bad guys, there's no tension here, right? We know what's going to happen. They're able to briefly get, anyway, Dom gets the other half of the sphere, but the last thing they need is the activation key. Our other subplot, as though this stupid, unwieldy behemoth didn't need more balls to juggle, is Mia, Dom's sister, because that's all she is. She's a cardboard cutout of a human being. And she lost the only thing that made her character relevant when Paul Walker died, because she stopped being Dom's sister somewhere in the second or third movie and just became Brian's love interest. She and Letty are going to Tokyo because there's something connected to Han. Han is in fact not dead because, again, comic books, no one actually dies except for Uncle Ben. And we've already had Uncle Ben die. Han has been watching the activation key. It's a person because the key to this is encoded with the DNA of the two scientists who made it. And I want to scream because you wouldn't actually need their child to do this. All you need is, if these people worked on anything as highly classified as they indicated, there's blood samples somewhere. Stealing those would be much easier. Not to mention the fact that all you get for DNA that you can really, you can do DNA tests, but there's a probability error on the paternal side. Your mitochondrial DNA all comes from the maternal side and that never really deteriorates the same way. Would have been perfect if she picks up the ball and there's like an error. Like just the same percentage. Look, she has the same percentage chance of having that malfunction as there was a doubt about OJ's DNA being at the murder scene. So, 100% of the time it works, right?
Sure.
0.003% of the time it works 100% of the time. Anyway, the long and the short of that is they kidnap Jacob. He's rescued by Otto and his goons. Charlize Theron is in this movie, allegedly.
Yeah, she plays Charlize in a box.
Yeah, she does. She has a few crappy lines of she has some lines of dialogue. I loved her line about Yoda because it's true. Anyway, they're rescued. There's the dumbest action sequence possible because it makes no sense. Like, the other stuff defies the laws of physics, but at least there's internal consistency. We go here, we do this goes wrong, vroom. Here it's just, well, we're all about to escape, but because I'm Vin Diesel and I need to have a moment of heroic sacrifice, I'm not going to help you escape. I'm just going to stop and fight 50 human beings.
And succeed about halfway through.
All of whom I overpower, but eventually the numbers just mean I can't logistically stop them from getting to this doorway. So like Samson of old, I will grab the pillars holding up the ceiling and collapse part of a tunnel, then fall 80 feet into water that's somehow there all of a sudden. Have a near-death experience where I remember that my brother Jacob was telling the truth and my dad was a flawed human. How do you get to 48 years old, which is what I assume Vin Diesel is, and not what I assume Dominic Toretto is, and not have the moment of clarity when you realize your parents are human beings? But now they have to stop the MacGuffin from MacGuffining. They send Tyrese and Ludacris into outer space to intercept the satellite that they're using.
In a car. They're in a car strapped with a rocket, and none of this explodes. It's a car.
I can't. I just can't. Look, believe it or not, I might accept that they could, with enough time, make the car airtight. Okay? I can buy that, believe it or not. That's a fairly...
Doesn't the scientist character speak to that to some degree? Like, he's like, I used the polymer to blah, blah, yakety schmackety, and now they won't die.
I can accept you could make a car pressurized. Like, you can pressurize a car so that you won't be killed immediately by the vacuum of space. Like, that I can believe, okay? We're okay here. You don't understand the purpose of the space shuttle if you think you could just use a car for this. It's not just a vacuum seal, right? It's to protect you from the radiation that is now bombarding you unfiltered by the Van Allen radiation belts. It's climate controlled to protect you from half of you being baked by unfettered solar radiation and winds, and half of you freezing because there's nothing between the two, depending on where the light is hitting you from the sun. The suits they wear, I can accept that the suits that they have are designed to deal with a negative pressure situation. In fact, they are. That's not all a spacesuit does. Again, primarily it's insulation against the cold nothingness of space. Anyway, they wind up driving this car into the they drive it into the satellite to destroy it because they're supposed to fry it with magnets, except that doesn't work. The most realistic thing about this entire sequence is something doesn't work.
Right. So they charge at it.
Yeah, they fly into it.
Yeah, they use their thrusters to ram the satellite with their car, accepting that this will mean certain doom, but they will have made a heroic sacrifice. And
except
in the end,
the car is indestructible, and then they immediately happen on the. If you haven't seen this, guys, there's a great little video or a series of tweets from Neil deGrasse Tyson about the impossibility of the movie Gravity, the Alfonso Cuarón film, which is a great film in most respects, about just the sheer distances involved in space and the probability of catching having visual on anything. But these two jamokes happen to come across the International Space Station and are saved.
Right.
Meanwhile, back on the farm, we get a giant chase sequence through they're in Germany somewhere, I think. Some Eastern European country, where there's an indestructible series of tanks. And we use magnets to try and attack this because of course we do. Mark, do you remember in The Dark Knight when Christopher Nolan flipped a semi?
Yeah.
And it was the greatest thing ever?
Yep.
It actually had scope and meaning and made you kind of go, holy crap.
Right. Because the Joker was standing in front of him, daring him to kill him, if I remember correctly.
That came after, but okay. Yeah, it's a similar sequence. Yeah, one of the semis, the one that was holding the Joker, I think. Yeah, he inverts it. And it's great. Right. The music goes silent for a minute, and because the movie has gone out of its way to establish that it is mostly grounded in reality, flipping a freaking semi like that makes your jaw drop just a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, none of that. We do dumber things here, but it matters not at all. So we get a big car chase. Magnets are used. Francis Ngannou shows up, and God bless him. I imagine that because he actually has a speaking role in this, that the UFC heavyweight champion was paid more for this 40 seconds of screen time than he was for his last title fight.
I think I read that somewhere.
He probably was. Sad story. He probably was.
Mm-hmm.
He is then killed by a mine because he beats the crap. He just clubs Han a couple of times, and me knowing Francis Ngannou goes, okay, he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
This was not as dumb as Michelle Rodriguez being able to outfight Ronda Rousey He just has to survive a few punches and then is able to outthink Francis. But no, a couple of those punches from Big Francis and he's done. Anyway, they eventually wreck the darn thing. Sorry. The big thing here is John Cena is betrayed. Shock of shocks. Swerve, bro.
And
by Otto.
And instantly decides he's going to now turn on the bad guys and join his brother.
They eventually do stop the uplink in person. They crash the satellite.
But here's the best thing about this entire sequence. It ends in a Godzilla tail swipe as this thing flips in such a way that it wraps around, swings, and hits the drone that Charlize Theron has been flying. Yeah,
Charlize Theron. Otto decides that Charlize Theron is a better ally than hostage, which is, in fairness, the smartest thing he does. She pilots a drone. She fires missiles at this big thing. It winds up being swiped around, and the drone flies into it. It's a big fake out. We're led to believe she's piloting it, but no, it's a drone. She heads off to be part of the sequel. Dominic gives Jacob the car that they'd been driving in a deliberate callback to the first movie when Brian gave him a 10-second car because he owed him and let him go off to potentially start a new life.
Call back to the first movie. Call back to every movie. Every movie, Dom's giving somebody a car.
That's true. That's very true. Well, again, this time it's just slightly different because he deliberately says, a long time ago, somebody gave me a second chance with a fast car, so I'm going to pass that on. Jacob heads off to do whatever he's going to do in the sequel. Everyone gets back together at the old house that's being rebuilt after it was blown up in 7. And then our last little callback is, hey, remember the dead guy? Brian O'Connor's car is driving up just as the movie ends.
He'll be here soon. My kids could not handle that. They were like, but you told us he died. Yes, the actor is dead. They haven't acknowledged the character still lives, but the actor died. So they're just acknowledging that in this universe, the character still lives. They're like, but the actor's dead. 20 minutes later, we're still doing that conversation. I finally just said, he's fucking dead. Just leave it alone.
Yeah, the actor's dead. The character in the movie is not.
Right.
And then there's a mid-credit scene when Han shows up to talk with Jason Statham to be in the next Hobbs and Shaw movie, I assume. I don't know.
Oh, we didn't stay for that. Is that what happened?
Look, again, mid-credits, you see Jason Statham beating the crap out of a heavy bag. He unzips the heavy bag, and there's a guy inside of it, and he goes, I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you where the drive is. And he goes, what, you mean this drive? You had it, then why are you hitting me? How else do you think I stay in this good a shape? He zips him back up.
Yeah.
There's a knock on the door. He goes to answer it, and it's Han, and he thinks he killed him, so we get a surprised Pikachu face out of Jason Statham.
Gotcha. All right, Robert.
This movie angers me. I think about watching this movie, and I get mad. Mark, I try not to swear on these shows. I've been trying to cut back on that in general. I have to do this. There's a line when Ludacris and Roman are in outer space together. They're on this car is carried up by a heavier plane and then detached and then it launches, which is a perfectly valid way of launching something into outer space.
Mm-hmm.
And Roman is freaking out like you would. And Ludacris has the audacity to say to him, it's all just numbers.
I knew it.
As long as we follow the laws of physics, we're going to be fine. I wanted to spit at the screen and go, motherfucker.
Hey, look, the only thing missing from I knew that line was I figured you weren't going to finish the movie at that point. You were just going to throw your popcorn down and walk out of the theater. Middle fingers up, pants down. Like you were just done. But yeah, when he was just like, the numbers don't lie.
Would you like
right at the audience?
Would you like me to count the number of times someone was saved from falling from a high distance by hitting a speeding car?
Look, there are things that I can pick at. Like, if you're watching this,
we just saw it on screen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're watching this on video, that whole sequence where Letty gets knocked off at midair, knocked off a motorcycle, and she's caught with another car. Yeah, she's fucking dead, if not paralyzed. Every time they've rolled that car, Vin Diesel should have died, especially when they hit the cliff. But
certainly that.
Look, I'm not going to spend another hour of this podcast nitpicking.
How is that guy dead? Okay, we just saw one of the only lethal car crash in this entire movie is a goon who gets struck off of one car
I actually laughed
by
out loud
another
at
car. I was waiting for him to just stand up on the road and start chasing them, Terminator style.
As he melds back together again.
Yes, that's the only effect cars have, right? They are soft landing surfaces.
Right. It can catch Letty like she's falling into a baseball mitt.
It catches Jacob. Jacob gets knocked off of their tank apparatus, bounces like car. His spine goes like this. It starts out straight. It goes like this around the car, and then he just climbs the car and gets in.
Right. Look, I again, as the positive one on this podcast, let me not spend the next hour bitching and complaining and quibbling over the stupid stunts in this movie. Here's what I want to say about this, and I don't have a lot to say. This is not a movie that demands a tremendous amount of analysis. I said to you off air and maybe on air, but then we lost it. This feels like a throwback to the stupid action movies of my youth. And I'm born 76. I'm 7 years older than you. You're the same age as my wife. But I grew up in the age of like Commando and, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie with Alyssa Milano, a young Alyssa Milano.
Commando's a great movie, for the record.
But I mean, look, we are, 7 years apart. And then there's like my dad, who's in his 70s and I'm in my 40s. And there are movies that I've watched with my dad where we both had fun watching them. They were fun action movies with a lot of fun stunts and very little to no plot. Or the plot isn't so stupid it needed to be studied. But, we would both kind of come to the same conclusion. Like, did we have a fun time watching the stupid stunt show? Yes. Did the logic of the movie at least follow in that motivations were clear, objectives were met, and problems were resolved? Yes. And so where that's concerned, because I think it's very easy to be like, this is a bad movie because these are unbelievable stunts, which you can have that opinion. I don't necessarily think it follows. I think
that's true.
I think once you've accepted the cartoonery of it all, then you're left with, how are the performances? How are were the set pieces readable? Did the plot flow from logic? And here's what I'll tell you: none of these people are going to win Academy Awards. But as in terms of
yet, how many times in this stupid movie does they might as well have had a giant sign over Vin Diesel's head flashing, "I'm not a bad actor, please believe me."
Well, look, could I believe that Vin Diesel would somewhere in his heart miss his brother and feel guilty about what happened? Yes. That was what was portrayed on screen. That was what was written in the script. That is what shows on the man's face, as dumb as it is. Michelle Rodriguez, all she has to do is be ride or die bitch. And that's what she does. The only time she has to emote in this movie is at the very beginning. And, you shushed me about it, and I was halfway joking. But the reality of it is she's playing a character who is unsettled. She cannot live on the farm. This is not how she is built. And as soon as she does it, she acts it, it's established. They never go back to it again because it's irrelevant to the rest of the movie. They needed an impetus to get them off the farm. Jordana Brewster is toast. She's just lightly cooked toast.
Hey, wait a minute! Aren't you my biological brother? Yeah, hi Mia. Dom.
This is why I don't know what else Jordana Brewster's in. I think she's only been in these movies.
But she has a few other things.
She has the acting range of a shelf. She's just blah. But again, they don't ask her to do anything. It's kind of, I remember the interview we just did with Glenn R. Miller. React to the monster. Ah! And that's it. And then run that way. That's all they ask her to do. That's all she's capable of doing. John Cena made his bones after he got out of the stupid action movies, doing like really, kiddie, broad Nickelodeon films, and he got good at it. And he was very funny, and he's engaging and charming in those movies. And here he has to play a kind of unlikable bad guy that at the end you're glad turned good. It doesn't require a lot from him. He didn't give a lot of it. He they like snarl on camera. Okay. So like, here's where I'm going with this. in terms of performance, the director doesn't ask a lot of these people, and they're not capable of giving more than they got. So this is a very average acted play surrounded by silly stunts.
It needs to be said about John Cena. He is not a good action star.
No, but again, like, he's not asked to carry this thing. He's asked to snarl on camera a few times.
No, I get that. It's just an oddity of his particular skill set. You would think, with the way he looks, that he would be a good action star. That he'd
May I offer the following argument, not to cut you off?
Yeah.
But he wasn't a good action star when he was a professional wrestler. He was a great kiddie hero.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Okay.
Like, my point is, what was the first movie he did? He did The Marine, right?
Right.
Where he's supposed to be an action hero.
Right.
And he's just not very good at it. And I think he tried with one other action-oriented movie. And then, because everyone kind of figured out what he's actually good at. He's a funny guy.
Right. No, and that's the thing. Like, you talked about his body size and frame. Yeah, he looks like, not everybody who's muscular, as we know, has charisma. I mean, and we know this from professional wrestling in and of itself.
Yeah.
They march in all of these guys from bodybuilding and football and other sports, and they're jacked up muscular dudes. And then you're like, okay, perform. And they're like, I can't. I lift weights good. I catch balls good. I'm not an actor. I don't know how to emote. I can't really do line readings without it sounding like I'm reading from a text. And while John Cena's not that bad, John Cena, if you took his personality and you put it into another body, it would be like Jim Carrey, or like an Andy Kaufman. Like, he's just a funny, quirky dude with a lot of charm and charisma. He just happens to be in the Hulk Hogan body. Yeah,
can I just say, every time they put him and Dominic and Vin Diesel next to each other, like, no. John is a good, like, inch and a half taller than Vin Diesel, than they show. Like, they did the same thing with The Rock. It's like, okay, Vin Diesel and The Rock are going to square off. The Rock's 6'3".
Yeah. Isn't Vin Diesel, like, short for, not like...
He's not Tom Cruise, but I think he's sub 6. I don't think he's 6 feet tall.
Right.
Which is fine. Look, most actors are shorter. It's actually it's a benefit when you're filming movies. You don't need you can be closer. Right.
I like Stallone is like shorter than he's presented on screen. Yeah. Vin Diesel shorter than Tom Cruise certainly is, and he's like 5'3" or some shit. I
mean, seriously, Tom Cruise is, I think, like 5'5", 5'6", but yeah, he's short. And then you've got, I mean, Jason Statham's not a tall guy either. They try to portray him as loosely the same height as The Rock. The Rock's 6 inches taller than all of these people, and The Rock's a little taller than John Cena, but they're roughly the same size.
Yeah.
So anyway, some nice little force perspective there. But I mean, the other thing about John, and this is very obvious, every time he gets physical with any of them, he is enormous. Like the size of his hands when he touches somebody.
I know you wouldn't have seen it because you're not a huge fan of the genre, but he was in the movie with Amy Schumer. And like you compare, like Amy Schumer is also like she's girl size, but she's bigger than the average girl. And even she, compared to John Cena, was like ridiculous.
If you want to make Amy Schumer look like and I don't mean this disparaging, like you said, she's not a fat. Well, she's not fat.
She's not Michelle Rodriguez. Michelle Rodriguez is closer to the average girl size.
Yeah, Schumer's a little bit bigger than that. If you want to make her look like that, you put her next to John Cena because he's so much bigger than you think he is. Especially, I mean, it was weird for me the first time I realized that because I was used to seeing him in wrestling, where he's not a small wrestler, but he's an average WWE wrestler, especially of his time. And then you see him next to a normal person, you're like, God.
Yeah, the same thing with The Rock. They put The Rock in like children and stuff, and you're like, my God, you're a giant.
You could kill this person with one hand.
Yeah. So I just want to wrap this up because, like, as far as the craft review goes,
I have a craft review point that I need. Let
me say this, and then I really am done talking. Charlize Theron not given enough to do. I understand that she's a character from the previous movie, and they were focusing on Jacob and German guy doing German things. But if you're going to have Charlize Theron in your movie, she's the best actor of the bunch. I mean, like, head and shoulders, the best actor of this entire group.
I can't say that completely because Helen Mirren's briefly in this, but between the two of them.
Okay. Yes, Helen Mirren's in this too. But if you're going to have Charlize Theron in your movie,
two Oscar winners in this movie.
well,
Not for this movie.
I don't want to spend 3 hours going through a list of bad movies Oscar winners have been in.
That's true. There's a long list of those.
I was going to say De Niro and what's his face, Scarface.
De Niro and Pacino have muddied those waters significantly.
Yeah, made a cottage industry of it as of late. Two things. One, not enough Charlize Theron. And if you're going to have her in your movie, you need to use her more. I think this was almost disrespectful to her. Yeah. Two, when all of your marketing is around the return of Han and you do nothing with him except for the one scene where he's sniper shooting people, it's a cool scene and everything, and it's a cool thing that Han does.
Well, then he gets punched in the face by the UFC heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah, and then the rest of the movie doesn't. He's just in the background doing nothing. I also want to echo a point that was made in the pitch meeting, which I haven't watched yet, but you have get a chance to watch it. It's really funny.
I'm gonna look it up as soon as we're done. I love those.
Being self-aware in your movie does not excuse the stupidity of your movie.
Darn right.
And so the whole thing, and the reason why I bring this up, to have Roman go through an entire monologue about their indestructibility and not pay it off in any way other than it's a cheap joke. And you're you're like, well, meta stuff is funny. The kids like meta, so let's have a meta moment in this with the character that we gave nothing else to, who's more likely to say stupid shit like that because he's also like the weirdly cowardly funny guy. There was no reason for him to give that monologue if they were going to do nothing with it in the end. So sort of my final wrap up is that
then there would have to be consequences to your actions, Mark.
Did I have a good time watching this? Did I have a good time watching this with my kids? Yes. Is it something I kind of adore about the film industry in that sometimes I just need a stupid action movie to entertain me for 2 hours? Yes. Could this have been cut down? Yes. Could they have used some of the actors better? Yes. So I would say this is about a C+ to B- for me. Go ahead.
The supreme irony of that bit of meta humor from Tyrese. Mm-hmm. He's right. Like, in the context of these movies, he's entirely correct unless you want to make a point about proving him wrong. And they don't, because he's not wrong. He's right. And it's so annoying. This movie has a serious identity crisis, believe it or not. There are two very, very different movies going on here. One is a pseudo throwback to the kind of small-scale, realistic, character-driven elements of the first movie, which is all the first movie was. It's Point Break, right?
Right.
Point Break is nothing if the characters don't work.
Right.
Same of the first Fast and Furious movie. The character interactions are what drive that. Half of this movie, about half, wants to be a throwback to that tells the story of Dominic Toretto still trying to deal with the trauma of his dead dad and the stupid decisions he made about his brother, who he blames for that death, and them kind of reconnecting and making amends. That's half of this movie.
It's not done well.
No, nothing about this movie is done well. Absolutely nothing.
That part of it's not done well. I actually forgot to say that. Like, when they were doing contemporary action stuff, I was enjoying the movie. Every time they went back to Dom's trauma, I'm like, none of the actors in this are good enough to pull that off. Your story isn't good enough to pull that off. And every time you show young Dom and young Jacob, I'm like, I don't believe those are the real people.
I know.
I couldn't tell. Like I said, I couldn't tell if those were actors or if that was de-aging. In either case, it was bad, and it took me right out of the movie.
But half of it wants to do that. It wants to go back to that kind of story. The other half wants to be globe-trotting MacGuffin.
Right.
Blow up half a continent and let's see what happens.
Which I'm there for. Yeah, I love it.
I would be there for that if, one, it made sense. And bear in mind, when I say make sense, I know this movie has left reality. I just want something that I was willing to invest in 8 for a very simple reason. They botched it story-wise. Botched 8 horribly with the MacGuffins and the globe-trotting. Like, that has to make sense. But I was willing to buy Jason Statham's pissed off because he hurt his brother, and he's a good enough he is good enough at what he does to be a threat. Like, okay, we're here. I'm there. I will buy these. Was that 8 or 7? 7. Thinking of 7. So 7. Because 6 is they get hired to help people track down Luke Evans.
Yeah, 6 is Luke Evans is the bad guy.
7 is Jason.
Right. 7 is Jason Statham's revenge, and 8 is Charlize Theron.
7 I will buy because you have a believable motivation from a character capable of exacting this kind of revenge. And then again, they screw it all up with everything they do about it. Like here, you need to go to these 4 countries, these 5 different countries, because they're paying us site fees to shoot there and to feature them in our movie.
Yeah.
And collect 5 different components, and then you can get the thing, and never mind that along the way you could have solved this 8 different ways. Like, okay, so you've botched it, but I'm willing to go along with big chunks of this.
So, yeah, I want to interject, but I want to interject your own point that was made off air about this. Because when I told you, and as we were just kind of shooting the shit about this, I said, this reminds me of the action movies of the 80s. You were like, yeah, but at least people cared about those movies when they were making them.
Yeah.
And this one feels like, well, 20 minutes has passed. We need to make another Fast and the Furious movie. Like, what is it? The joke about Warner Brothers? You know, there's a glass case, and on one half is a button that says Batman, and the other half says Scooby Doo. You know, it's just like
Universal has this. That's kind of it.
Well, I was gonna say this and the Gru Minions, Despicable Me.
Which they made a joke about, and I kind of appreciate it.
Yeah, oh, Minions. But I mean, it really is. It's like, you know, studio executives are now just kind of sitting around the table going, you know, here's a list of RIP. What can we make next? You know, what haven't we made in a little bit? And when they're already talking about, like, even my kids are like, okay, this is the last one, right? We're done now. There's nothing left to do.
At least 3.
10, they said this is going to go to 11 before they're finished, which is a really weird number to end on. Like, not 12, not 14. We're going to end on an odd number.
No. They're not ending on. Look, no. They said that, and then by the time they get done shooting 11, they'll go. They're saying that in case the returns for this and the next 2 are so bad that they have to cut bait. But if they're good enough, no, they're making more.
Yeah, I want to let you finish your point, but I mean, this, just so people understand what it is we're saying about this movie, when you're in the moment, it's entertaining, but does it, for most people, but does it feel like this is the very definition of a product?
It's a gear turner.
Yeah.
This is another recycling of the same IP. The machine, right. We have the machine. The wheels have to keep turning on the machine. Here's your next rotation. That's all. I feel
like there was in defense of that, it feel like there was an attempt to tell a meaningful story here with this whole stupid action story around it. But nobody involved in this project is good enough. Nobody involved in the writing or directing of this is able to pull off what they were attempting to do with Dom and his brother.
I could maybe believe that you could get, let me put it this way. Is there a combination of script and director that could get Vin Diesel and John Cena to give you a somewhat believable emotional journey for those characters in that way? I believe there is. I don't know what it would be, but I'm perfectly willing to acknowledge that Vin Diesel is competent enough and John Cena is competent enough to have done this.
No, but this is one of those movies where no one gives, I want to go back to my interview with Glenn Miller.
Hang on. This was written. Hang on. The screenplay was done by Daniel Casey and the director Justin Lin.
I was going to say, I asked Glenn Miller, which do you like? And there's a reason why I'm bringing this up, not just to plug my interview with the guy. I asked him, like, which do you prefer? Do you like doing the effects and the sort of physical direction of a movie, or do you like working with the actors? And he was like, I work for the Asylum. And I was like, okay, I get that. But if you worked on a real movie, what would you say? And he was like, joking this aside, there's not enough time to work with the actors on any of these movies. It's a lot of know your blocking, know your lines, say your lines, run from the monster. Would he like to? Sure, but but when you're shooting a movie in 6 days, not a whole lot of time to what's my motivation. And I feel like all credit to the director of this thing. I think, he goes to Universal and they bring him a project and they go, make a physical visual movie with great stunts. And, at the heart of it has to be this story, because we're not making porn and we don't want it to be action porn. So you have to have this heart in the middle, but the rest of it just has to look awesome. And he goes, okay. And that's the thing. That's why I don't want to shit all over this movie too much, because it effectively did what the assignment was. If the assignment is make a stupid action movie with awesome looking stunts with this small little bit of heart in the middle, it accomplished that goal. That doesn't make it a very worthwhile viewing experience if you care about movies, but most people don't. Most people just want to see, a stunt show, which is what you got.
I'm gonna push back on just a couple of bits of that, in only the following way. I agree with you that people just want to be entertained. I don't think this movie is very entertaining, and I will explain why. But just very briefly about Justin Lin, you know what you're getting with this guy. If you don't mind me going briefly through his filmography, it goes as follows for directing credits only. He did. His first 3 movies were in 1997, Shopping for Fangs, which I'm sure most of us haven't seen. In 2002, there was Better Luck Tomorrow, which is a crime drama. In 2006, he did Annapolis. There's another movie called Annapolis around the same time. Anyway, so a lot of smaller stuff.
You're thinking of Battleship.
No. I'm thinking of a different movie.
You're thinking of that Navy movie with Kelsey Grammer?
No, I love that movie, man. That movie makes me laugh.
Does it really?
Yeah. Oh, it does. I saw it for the first time when I was the right age for the humor to hit me, and it's just stuck with me.
Nice.
I will still watch that movie and bust a gut laughing.
What's that, McHale's Navy?
No, it's up or down. I think it's down Periscope.
Down Periscope, yeah.
It's either down Periscope or up Periscope. I can't remember which.
It's down.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's hilarious. But in 2006, he also directs the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. 7, he does Finishing the Game, which it was a mockumentary about Game of Death. Then it's Fast and Furious, Fast 5, Fast 6, Star Trek Beyond, and Fast 9.
Oh, he did Star Trek Beyond? Boy, does that make tons of sense to me.
Doesn't it? Doesn't it just? You look at that movie, yep, that's a Justin Lin movie. It's brainless. There's a couple of stunts that they hope you don't think about.
So let me ask you a question, and then let's kind of end on this.
Okay.
Oh, no, you weren't done making your point.
No. Go ahead and ask your question. My point will stand regardless of what you ask, so I'll make it after this.
I mean, can you really... There is space in Hollywood for you to make, the personal... passion project. There is space for you to make, even on a big budget. I mean, I don't think Marvel's track record is the world's greatest, but I think in some cases people came to Marvel and they were given big budgets, and some guidelines, but basically said, make your art movie. I would say that about like Doctor Strange, for example. It's not like that movie wasn't done with care. Mm-hmm. It's certainly from a visual perspective, that director was like, I'm going to do fun things with the camera here, and it worked. James Gunn with the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, was, here's your big budget, here's your goofy characters, here's your comic book plot, make your movie though. And James Gunn did. So I don't think it's fair to say, Hollywood just churns out, one piece of garbage after another. But I do think that you are going to get some like directors for hire who, the studio says, make this and make it this way. And they do that. And I don't know how fair it is for us to say they did a bad job when they did what they were told. Like if you hire someone to paint your house, but you ask them to paint it, lime, shades of lime green and lavender, and it looks horrible, but that's what they did. And they did the best painting job possible with the instructions you gave them. Then they're not at fault.
I'm aware. And again, when it comes to the direction of this movie, mm-hmm. There's a couple of sequences that annoyed me because I thought they were poorly executed.
That's fair. What are they?
A bunch of the stuff in the jungle is unreadable.
Okay.
There was something about, I forget which one exactly. And look, this movie is desperately hoping that its bevy of action sequences confuse you enough to where you don't actually follow things.
Yeah, I may not have remembered what was unreadable because by the end of it, I was like, whew!
There was parts of the final action sequence that I thought didn't really track, where new enemy cars come out of the ether. Like, well, that was all of the cars we showed on screen. But there's more. Like, there's a few individual action. Some of the stuff we just see on screen there.
What you didn't see were the Marvel magicians doing this in the background.
I would have accepted it. I just said I expect Victor Von Doom to show up. Why would?
Sure.
Oh, this really bothered me. Actually, any of the actual fight sequences.
Mm-hmm.
You take your basic bitch fighting and get out.
Right.
It's poorly set up. It's not terribly well executed, and
it certainly ain't Paul Walker throwing up an armbar.
Paul Walker I think he was a legitimate brown belt in jiu-jitsu.
He was. You guys talked about. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, like the man knew enough about what he was doing in real life to go, okay, here's how this actually works. And the director goes, okay, we need to make this shot. We need to rotate the camera here. We need to have this shot for perspective. And sure, go ahead. And then it's a real thing. Like, there's times when the physical fighting in this franchise has been okay, either because it's deeply realistic or because it's at least shot with enough style to kind of help it out. Here, it's like, hey, these two are going to crash through a bunch of walls.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a few punches that will cut away from at the moment of impact, a la Kevin Dunn.
And not even a goofy line of dialogue like, you know what happens in a street fight, don't you? The street always wins. Kerkrunk.
Which was the dumbest line possible. But again, at least that had the stupidity of Vin Diesel with a giant wrench.
Right.
And Jason Statham being Jason Statham.
Mm-hmm.
Or was that Paul?
No, that was it.
That was Statham, yeah.
Yeah. And I bring it up because that fight sequence is actually shot well, despite it being in the dark.
It's in the dark and it's on asphalt, but you can follow what's happening.
Right.
Which is what you need out of this, and the rest of these not so much, especially in this movie. Here's my last thing about this. You mentioned this movie being at least entertaining. Here's why I will object to that, and not everyone's going to agree with me on this, and that's fine. You're all individual people. You knock yourselves out. Here's my gripe on this. For something to be entertaining, I have to care about what's happening on one degree or another. If that's a pure stunt, I have to care about whether or not the person's going to walk away. If it's a story, I have to care about the narrative consequences. If it's a battle sequence in a larger movie, I have to care about the consequences of them losing, right? You have to care on some level about something.
Sure.
For you to be invested enough to be entertained by what's on screen. I don't think that should be self-evident, but I feel I have to lay it out. Here's the problem with this movie. If I am going to care about what's happening, there has to be some consequence to what happens. Whether that's character, whether that's life and death, whether that's consequence to the political structure of the fake world, whatever. There has to be something you're fighting for. And there has to be the threat of what happens if you fail. Part of the problem with saying the world is at stake is there's no buy-in, right? They're not going to end the world. They're just not.
Not yet, at least.
No. They would need balls. You want to know the number of stories that say the world's at stake if we do this and actually then kill the world? No, it's not zero. Believe it or not, there are some stories and some very popular stories that have had the balls to go through with the heroes losing. I
was gonna say, I don't know why I said zero, because Devilman Crybaby, at least one.
Well, there's that. I mean, even if we wanted to go slightly bigger, there's Thanos. Like, he snaps. That works. He wins. You need some kind of. That's why you care about them stopping him, because if he gets the stones, he's going to do it. And again, the cynical observer of that story goes, well, of course they're going to stop him. He's going to get 4. He might even get 5, but then, Thor shows up and stops him at the last minute. And then, no, he doesn't. Thor tries.
Right.
But he doesn't aim for the head like a moron. And And then now again, the problem there becomes when you get to the next one, you get to Endgame. Oh, this time I'm going to shred the entire universe down to its last atom and rebuild it in my own image. And at that point, you go, okay, fine. We know you're not. Like, we know. Like, as on a meta level, even if you didn't already know they were going to win, like, that just cements it. Like, no, you're not doing that. We all know you're not doing that. Please stop. So for, the last 4 of these movies to have been the world is at stake, no one cares. That's not a stake. You're not going to do it. Well, okay, we know they're not going to do it, but maybe one of the characters will die. Bull! You have made it abundantly clear they won't die. So why do I care about your big stupid stunt if I know, A, the good guys are going to win, B, there's not going to be any consequences to their victory, and C, there's no cost to their victory along the way? Why do I care?
Visual stimuli. For most people, that's enough.
That's all. Okay, and if that's all we've got here, sure. Things on screen that are brightly lit, go vroom.
I will give you your favorite phrase about me. It's jingling keys, the movie.
It is. It really is. Again, there needs to be something you care about if you want your big. You talk about Commando, right? Why does Commando work? Not just because of Arnie's charisma and screen presence, not just because of set sequences. You have a believable motivation for this character. They stole his daughter, and in no small part because of movies in the 80s, decent enough chance that either his daughter or the girl he picks up along the way die in the course of this.
Sure. That's actually what happens in First Blood Part 2. He partners up with the Asian gal that's going to guide him through Vietnam, and she dies right after they've fallen in love, coincidentally.
Ain't it just tragic?
Ain't it just?
Point being, you need that. You need some kind of emotional buy-in to the story if you're going to get people to care. And because if they don't care, they're not going to be entertained. It doesn't matter what you do. If you don't care about it, it doesn't matter. And
right.
That's ultimately the big failing of this movie. And I don't think it's just me. Sometimes I'm willing to say that I'm the weird guy. I'm the guy dying on the hill here, right? I don't think it's just me in this case. I mean, and that's not just the reviews for this thing. It's the audience score isn't what you want it to be.
And we were talking about that momentarily.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to segue you too early there, but I'm just supporting my point. It's this movie in China dropping 80% of its revenue from week 1 to week 2. That's catastrophic.
Let me add on to your point here. I think my problem with the what's becoming with this Fast and Furious series is, like I said, with 4, 5, and 6, you actually had a fairly coherent narrative. Once you got to the end of 6 and they resolved Letty's amnesia, this just became another episode in a television show.
Yeah.
So now we're on episode 2 of the same television show where the good guys have to chase a MacGuffin all over the world and get it back before the bad guy uses it to take over the world. And I don't know how many more of those you can do before the audience gets bored. Whereas like if they had just stopped with 6 and you resolved the Letty story, you've told your story now. Like, we're done here. And I think that's my utter frustration with this, and kind of why I walked away from F9 going, eh. I'm not really interested in this television show.
Yeah. Like, they tried to come up with something in as much as you now have, Dom's brother,
right,
which would have been a decent reveal of him having a brother in, 4. But in 9, it feels tacked on because it is tacked on.
Right. Because the next one's going to have Dom's mother,
who hasn't been mentioned. Look, I'm waiting. 2 things I expect from 10. I expect Gal Gadot to come back. And I expect an 11 for his dad not to have died.
Wouldn't it be funny if Gal Gadot is his mother?
No. No, that wouldn't.
I'm your mother and your sister.
I need to watch that movie again. Chinatown's a great film.
Chinatown.
So again, that's ultimately my complaint here. This movie doesn't do anything to make you care. And if you don't care, how can you possibly be entertained even when things blow up?
All right. That's the last line here.
That's the again, apart from wanting to spit at Ludacris for that stupid line about following the law. Again, mother effer. You want me to count from this movie alone?
No, Mr. Wizard. No, we don't. Hey, before we go, I just want to remind everybody, this movie, one thing I can definitely say about the Fast and the Furious movies is, at least for me, the music not great. And having made a lot of TikToks recently with Fast and the Furious advertisements, of what we're doing and why we're doing it, trying to find music even better. I like to play the music to the movie we're going to see on the way to the movie, kind of hype us up, get amped for it.
You played this stuff for your kids?
I tried, man. I got 2 songs in. It was like I hit like a mix of Fast and the Furious, and my daughter was laughing hysterically. She's in the front seat, and I'm like, "Oh, this is garbage." Next, this is garbage. Next, oh, it's the Paul Walker song. That makes me sad. Next,
guy, not a joke. I think because they license a lot of music for these movies. I think the best song in this entire godforsaken film franchise is Limp Bizkit's "Rollin'" from the first one.
Yeah, for sure. And I wish I had remembered that a few TikToks ago. In any case, if you want to check out "Rollin'" by Limp Bizkit or any number of Latin, Hispanic rap music that they play in these movies.
Hey, you said that was Cardi B who shows up in this?
Yeah,
right?
if you want to listen to Cardi B, go ahead.
She's got the theme song for SummerSlam.
Does she really?
Have you not? Yeah.
No.
Look, the WWE trying to market their product to children and then having the theme song for SummerSlam be something from Cardi B that is very obviously about sex.
Terrific. Well, if you would like to listen to Cardi B sing about sex to your children, you can check out yeah, God bless America. You click our link in the description of this podcast, getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. That's getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. You get a free 30 days of Amazon Music. Click the link, sign up for the service, stream all you want for 30 days. Nothing can stop you now, not tonight. And then at the end of that 30 days, if you want to keep the service, you can. No fuss, no muss. The same monthly fee as anything else you might use, like Apple Music or Spotify. Only better, because why not get your produce, your drugs, your bookshelves, your books, and your music all from the same place and put the rest of the retail world out of business. And with that said, speaking of the retail world, here comes the money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
All righty. So, allegedly, this film has a budget of between $200 and $225 million. And as of this recording, and then we're now recording this on a Wednesday afternoon, provided something doesn't happen again, it's made approximately worldwide $412 million. Considering these things average $1 billion, I mean, it's on the one hand, we're still, in the throes of the pandemic. On the other hand, people are returning to theaters. Movies are starting to make money. This is breaking all kinds of records. I believe the headline is the blockbuster is back as F9 races out of the gate with a record-breaking $70 million domestic weekend. And then, almost half a billion total since it's been out across the world. So, okay, we'll see what happens going forward.
First, just very briefly, I'm calling bullshit. There's no way this was only 200 million.
Yeah, it's hard to say. So it was obviously number one for the weekend. Number two was A Quiet Place, maintaining its second week in second place. The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, which fell from its first weekend of being the number one movie of that weekend, which nobody talked about, fell to number three.
Yeah, nobody saw it either.
Yeah.
It was the number one movie. Well, 5 people went to see it.
Peter Rabbit, after moving all over the place like a horny jackrabbit, as it were, fell from 3 to 4.
How droll.
Cruella maintaining its spot at number 5 with The Conjuring, which had a decent first weekend and then dropped considerably. And apparently everyone thinks it sucked and nobody saw it. The Conjuring dropped from 4 to 6. In the Heights 6 to 7. not doing well. Like, not only were half of these movies delayed from 2020, but they're all like not doing as well as projected. In the Heights apparently not striking the audience the same as Hamilton did. And there's been a cottage industry of articles written about why that's the case.
Look, let me tell you why that's the case. I'll make this real easy for people. Okay? You look at me. It's real simple. When you make a niche product, don't be surprised when the niche is 90% of your audience and consumers.
Spirit Untamed, which not only is this not doing well, but it had its weekend. It's gone from 7 to 8. And I told my kids, like, hey, I'm going to put this on for you. Tell me how it is. They watched it. They were like, it's okay. I'm like, hey, do you guys want to do a quick TikTok review of it? They're like, no, we don't. Okay, then. Nobody, which apparently went back into theaters again for whatever the reasons were, jumped from 22 back into 9 and like went back into something like a whole bunch of theaters. I'm not really sure where the big turnaround there was. Good
for Nobody.
Yeah, sure.
I haven't seen it, but
no, that's right. I saw Nobody. We talked about it, but you hadn't seen it. Werewolves Within, which is basically going straight to VOD, but had a weekend in the theater so that it could be considered for awards or be played in film festival or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Sean and I are talking about it along with Hitman and Tekken this next weekend, so look for that. In any case, it debuted at number 11 with 250,000 for what that's worth. The House Next Door, Meet the Blacks 2 fell from 9 to 12. Wrath of Man, 10 to 13. Godzilla vs. Kong, 13 to 14. Queen Beast, 12 to 15. The Sparks Brothers, 11 to 16. A Rita Moreno documentary of all things, 16 to 17. Ryan the Last Dragon, 15 to 18. Spiral, 19 to 14. And finally, Witnesses, 18 to 20. Debuting this weekend also that nobody saw, Lansky at number 22. I Carry You With Me at number 24. And 28 is Le Cercle Le Rouge. And then The Evil Next Door at number 42.
Right on, Witnesses cracking the top 20. It's nice to see a Mormon movie do well.
Good. So as you can see on the page in front of you, as of today, the movie about the Twitter feed. I don't know what this is. I just know that that's what it's about. It's about, if you haven't looked it up, Zola is about someone's like viral Twitter feed that I guess gained enough popularity they decided to make a movie about this. Apparently involves strippers. If I had more time, I'd go see it because crime drama strippers. But that's today. The big movie of this weekend, this July 4th weekend, there are two, one of which will be strictly in theaters, and that's The Forever Purge, which I believe is the 5th in the series. We're going to do a Long Road to Ruin on the first 4 movies, and then we'll be back to review this one next week with Jason Teasley. I don't know.
Is that I can't remember if that's 4 or 5.
It's got to be 5 because I bought a package of 4 movies.
Because there's first one, which is Ethan Hawke. The second one's Frank Grillo. The third one's Kristen Chenoweth. What's the fourth?
And then the other movie, it's strict competition to The Forever Purge is The Boss Baby 2, Family Business, which is day and date, not only with I lost my train of thought there. It's day and date in theaters and on Peacock.
That was it. That was the first Purge. Is the fourth one? Okay,
good.
Sorry, that was bugging me.
I don't think because The Boss Baby is day and date on Peacock. I can't imagine that's going to be the number 1 movie of the weekend.
Well, then people would have to have Peacock, Mark.
Oh, but if like most of the wrestling fans have the cock,
do they? Do you?
Let me ask you a question. In all seriousness, in terms of
in all seriousness, do you have Peacock?
I do because I watch wrestling.
I might have because the NBC has the Olympics that are coming later this year, and I don't know what they're streaming.
Well, Robert Winfree, you should jump on that cock.
Yeah, please don't.
I will, and I must. But I have a serious question for you that doesn't involve sexual innuendo.
So, I don't believe you, but okay.
So look, the real question here is: will the Fast and the Furious be number 1 this weekend? Because its only other big competition that's in wide release is not a children's movie, is The Forever Purge. But The Forever Purge is also a horror movie. and that always has sort of a limited audience. Sometimes those do extremely well because everyone who's a horror fan, and there's a lot of them, go to see them.
There's a lot of us.
And sometimes they don't, and they don't do well. See The Conjuring. But the Forever Purge has the benefit of being, strictly theaters and in wide release. So here's the thing. I know I have a ticket to the Forever Purge Friday night, but even in my theater, which is a big theater, it's the biggest one in the area, it's only having the one theater showing, and only in a few times. Like the latest showing I could find was 7:30, and then after that it's done for the day. And there were 2 other showings before that, which makes me think, even though it's in wide release, this might not be a very heavily shown picture, which in my opinion would give F9 a second week run at the number 1 spot. What do you say, Hooks?
I imagine it'll repeat at number 1. I fully anticipate a 70+% drop in what it takes in. It's going to, put it this way, I expect it will repeat, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than most people anticipate.
Well, if it doesn't, the question that you can draw out from that is, will this thing get to the $1 billion mark, which is what Universal is hoping for?
No.
In depressed times such as these, it's hard to say, even with a return to theaters happening. But not everyone's even vaccinated. Not all markets are even open. There are some that are still. I think my wife was to tell me that after Australia had successfully beaten the virus off, just went into lockdown not that long ago.
Could be.
Yeah, I haven't been following that closely. I live in Florida, where we've learned to tame and domesticate the virus. But the COVID. But
I actually need to get my shot scheduled. I was gonna do it a while ago, then I got pretty sick with a head and chest cold that was not COVID.
Right. Well, like I said, I got vaccinated almost as soon as it was offered at work. In any case, not everyone is. So it's still a little hard to make predictions here. But either way, it either is the number 1 movie this weekend, or it's just about going to make all the money it's going to make in large part. And I'm sure like just like Godzilla and Kong did, it'll eke towards whatever good number it's going to eke to. But in terms of like quick splashes, I think it's got 1 more week left in it, and then Black Widow comes out. And even though Black Widow is premiere access day and date on Disney Plus, I still think, if anything's going to draw people to the theaters, it's a Marvel movie. The week of the 16th, the big one is Space Jam. So again, if people are going to the movies, are going to see Space Jam. Sorry. Just be happy I'm making you review it.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not.
It's on the schedule.
You're not on it, though.
Really?
No, I gave you the day off.
Yeah.
I can't spend 3 hours talking about Space Jam with you and Alexis. I have shit to do.
Okay, how about I do Space Jam and I don't do Snake Eyes?
You're going to do Snake Eyes. And that comes out on the 23rd, along with the M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movie, Old.
We're Old. We're doing a comic strip for, right?
Yeah, we're gonna compare the movie to the graphic novel Sandcastles, and then the following week we'll review Snake Eyes and Jungle Cruise. So that's that in terms of the money. Anything else you want to talk about with any other predictions you want to make with this? You say it's not going to make $1 billion, and you're probably right. And I closed the screen already, but I want to see how much Godzilla vs. Kong has made so far. Oh, you know what? We haven't done this in so long. That's what I forgot.
The top 10,
the worldwide top 10. I'm not going to reshare my screen for this, but Haimon, Detective Chinatown 3, Godzilla at 444. Wow, its worldwide cum to date is almost as much money as it's just a little bit more money than what F9 has made total in 1 week.
Well, hang on, that's not 1 week. Remember, this thing released in China.
You're right. I take that back. So F9's number 4th with 412. Then A Quiet Place at almost 250. Then Cruella at almost 200. Impasse at 180. The Conjuring 160. A Writer's Odyssey at 150, and then Sister at 128. And then rounding out the top 20 for the worldwide box office to date, Tom and Jerry, Ryan, The Last Dragon, My Love, Peter Rabbit, Wrath of Man, Detective Conan, Endgame, not the Marvel movie, Evangelion, Mortal Kombat.
Wait, did you just say Evangelion? What?
I said Evangelion.
Spell that for me, please.
Fuck.
No, I mean this in all seriousness. Please spell that.
Evangelion.
That's Evangelion.
And Mortal Kombat and Boonie Bears, the wildlife. That's it.
What was
And
it?
well,
What released from the Ava franchise?
the Avatar re-release is at 21. Nobody 23. Just kind of looking at some big ones from this year. Spiral 40,000. Sorry, 40 million. 40,000. 40 million on Spiral. Yeesh. In the Heights 30 million. Double yeesh. And the Marksman, Wish Dragon, they're all in the top 50. All right, so that is the money. All right, let's go ahead and we'll close up with the critical the critical review.
And now I'm up at News Flash.
All righty.
I mean, you clicked the wrong thing, but
Did I?
you clicked the news flash.
Shit. Let's try that again. Yeah, that's the one.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
You know, so since we switched to doing video and audio, I'm still a little thumbs with this, and we don't do Damn You Hollywood nearly enough for me to get all the crazy cues.
No, that's fine. Apparently Bill Cosby's conviction was overturned.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring that up and derail the whole podcast, but we may need to talk about that at some point. All right, so
God, 60% of people. Hold on, I'll give you the audience score at 84. That's again, you ideally for this kind of property, you want that to be in the 90s, right? Like you'd think at least the people who paid their own money to see this would be happy. 60% of you professional jackasses.
well, the 60% of professional jackasses need Grammarly.
Boy, do they!
Grammarly's AI
Oh,
powered.
that was it. I had one last craft complaint about that move. About this movie. Let
Can
me
I
get it.
please do the Grammarly plug?
No. This will help you. Trust
Oh,
me.
okay.
Was it just me, or did it feel like all of Vin Diesel's line readings were directed by Refn?
Favored the pregnant pause. Did he? Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M network. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M network to download Grammarly for free. All right, as we have mentioned, yes, 60% of reviewers gave this a fresh review. It was enjoyed by 84% of the audience. Robert, dealer's choice. Do I read the splats or the fresh?
Mark, you and I both know this is a bad movie, right?
Fresh it is.
So
All
we find whoever has the dumbest take.
Let's see. Let's find some good ones here. John Liu of the Straits Times of Singapore. The dialogue might be lazy, but thankfully the action scenes are not. The finale features a pulse-racing David and Goliath street battle. The beautifully staged and shot sequence is worth the price of admission alone.
It's really not. Like, how can you say that about so many of those action sequences? Again, I might be convinced to give you a few. No, this isn't David and Goliath. It's two streetcars with superpowered magnets and modified. No.
Magnets? How the fuck do they work?
By the way, my last bit of this on this. Magnets don't repel things. They only repel things with a charge. Being attacked, you can't turn a dial and flip the magnet from positive to negative and then launch something that you were just attracted to.
So, from the point of view of all men are terrible, Jake Coyle from the Associated Press, who is allergic to testosterone.
Clearly.
If you can stomach the macho melodrama, these movies are ridiculous big screen ballets with cars shooting out of skyscrapers and airplanes that at their best are the right kind of stupid.
How dare we try to make movies where men actually have, feelings and relate to each other instead of God. You, sir. You know what that guy wanted? He wanted the spin-off movie where he could just watch Cardi B's crew do stupidity so he could then heap effusive praise on estrogen. Like,
I haven't read anything about this yet, but now that you've put that into the world, stay tuned for the Fast and the Cardi.
Please don't. Like, I said that, but seriously, don't. We don't need that. No one needs that.
Simran Hans of The Observer UK, top critic. Prior acquaintance with the 8 previous installments of this colossal action movie franchise isn't necessary for enjoyment of this one. The film's muscle cars and maximalist approach continue to serve it well. My only disagreement with that is if you come into this having never seen the other ones, then Dom and the kid and Letty don't make a tremendous amount of sense for the 5 minutes it needs to make sense.
And the entire emotional bit at the end, which I found stupid about Brian showing up, doesn't mean anything.
Right.
There's a bunch of context you would actually miss if this was your first one.
Lauren Bradshaw, fangirl freakout, which I believe is going to be our punch you in the face review of the evening.
Oh, yeah.
Easily the most insane Fast and Furious film in the franchise. It gives fans the series what they want in fantastic action and family, quote unquote. And finally goes to space. Derp!
Yeah, you really wanted to be on that Blu-ray cover, didn't you?
She's trying so hard. I wonder what her TikToks are like.
Seriously, believe it or not, I don't think this is the most insane of them. If we're talking about some of the stupid stunts, there's others that make less sense.
Kevin Carr, fat guy at the movies. That's fucking guy. There's an old saying, Robert Winfree, give the people what they want. Give them what they want. Do, 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 do. Hey. Give them what they want. And this is exactly what they're doing with this film. Good review, guy. Shout out to you, fat guy.
How did you get on Rotten Tomatoes? Don't they have standards?
I feel no, not anymore. I don't know why.
Actually, they do. They still do, but
for
some reason, that guy got on there.
I know we say this every time we do Damn You Hollywood, but we really do need to look into getting on here because if that guy can get on here and fucking doofus, what's his face with the YouTube videos can get on here, I don't know why we can't. We're on YouTube now. Yes,
we are. Please like, comment, and subscribe.
All you beautiful people out there. Daniel M. Kimmel of North Shore Movies. It's an amusement park ride of a movie, but one that delivers what is promised. As the original Bond films producer, Cubby Broccoli used to say, all the money was put up on screen. Oh, that I thought was going in the other direction. I'm like, no. Please don't compare this to James Bond.
That's a really odd way to phrase that. Second of all, of course, all the money wound up on screen. You didn't put any into the writers. That's for damn sure.
Abby Bernstein, Leonard Bernstein of Assignment X. F9 does a complete big screen escape with soundtrack bass that tries to rearrange your heartbeat.
No, the only thing that the soundtrack, no, the only thing that tries to rearrange is your brain cells, preferably out your ears.
It's not a great film by any stretch, but it makes you remember what movie theaters can do watching at home can't. No, I've seen some pretty good movie theater setups at home.
Not only that, look, I know that this is all about the action. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you don't actually lose anything watching this movie on a smaller screen.
Piers Marchant of Arkansas Democrat Gazette, your favorite piece of literary medium.
My favorite substitute toilet paper.
Universal Studios has gone and created a nearly perfect, self-perpetuating summer movie popcorn dispenser.
I mean, I wish I could say he's wrong in that particular assessment of the franchise, but he's not.
We'll do a few more of these and call it a night. We've somehow managed to get through almost this entire podcast without having to start over again. So, by the way, during this, there was a storm outside. And I'm like, I'm going to lose power, and I'm not going to want to do this anymore. I give up.
If it falls apart again, we're just going to call it a wash.
I'm putting up whatever got recorded.
Yeah.
Peter Bradshaw of Top Critic. The gigantic steroidal humongousness of the Fast and Furious franchise has finally rolled over me like a tank. Aw. Are you sad you review movies for The Guardian and this is the level of movie you have to review, you fucking asshole?
One, I appreciate your acknowledgement of the Stockholm Syndrome. Two, I spit on your lack of moral courage to continue speaking the truth.
Joe Fryer, the Victoria Advocate. We're ending on this one.
Yeah, this is getting to you more than it's going to get to me.
If 007 can get away with windsurfing on a tsunami, the Fast 9 gang get a hall pass as they defy science. Plus, it's a lot of fun. Derheap.
One, you are not the supreme arbiter of fun. This was tedious. And the only difference between you saying it's fun and me saying it's tedious is you're you and I'm me. Second, Pierce Brosnan did not get a pass on windsurfing over that tsunami. The world rightly crapped on it. In fact, that was his last appearance as 007 in no small part because of that. No passes are given, sir. Shame on you. You complete lack. That is a ignorant statement of the highest regard to say we gave a pass to Pierce Brosnan on a move so stupid in a movie so bad it was his last. And they had to reboot the whole thing and go in a completely different direction with Daniel Craig. No.
Well, they subsequently tried to kill in every single movie, both on screen and off screen.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
Poor Daniel Craig. All right, that's it. That's our wrap up of finally our epic release of podcasts and reviews for this godforsaken franchise. I don't want to do this anymore.
I would not pee on this franchise if it were on fire.
I remember the old days when we review small movies like Wrath of Man.
This broke you, Mark. Think about that. This franchise broke Mr. Summer Blockbuster.
Hang on. It broke me only because of just a confluence of different things, like re-releasing stuff from the archive, going to see all the movies with my kids, taking 10 attempts to do this one podcast, and a bunch of other little things that went along with it. I'm fucking done with this for a while.
And I'm just going to say, if there were any quality to this franchise anywhere, it wouldn't have been that much of a chore.
Yeah, next up for me is The Purge, though.
Well, that's going to be, that'll be something.
I mean, you're reviewing the new movie, but I have to go through the whole franchise with Sean.
Well, the new one is what, Yumi and Jason?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't seen any of I think I only saw the first one of those.
Really?
I might have to find them streaming and see if I can. I didn't dislike the first one, but I watched the trailer for the second and went, I mean, I like Frank Grillo, but yeah,
The Purge seems like one of those movies where it works as a concept once, and then after that, it's episodes in a television show, which I did watch. I did watch the TV show.
That was a mistake.
Which dealt less with The Purge and more about other stuff with it. And I've tried watching the second season, and I just don't. Yeah, just don't is right. All right. In the meantime, here's what we got this week. It's kind of an odd week for a bunch of different reasons, but we have managed to put out some content, both old and new and blue. We released an old Metal Hammer of Doom, 2 of them, as a matter of fact. One for Black Country Communion. It was like the second or third one we've ever did. That was a Robert Cooper pick. Plus, Evan Bevins and I reviewed Cosmic Ghost Rider, Baby Thanos Must Die. And then...
Why would you do that to yourself?
And then last night, we were supposed to do this, but like I said, I had a blackout. So instead, we re-released an old Testament album that we reviewed. Now all of the Testament albums we reviewed in the course of the Metal Hammer of Doom and all the years we've been doing it are now up for you to listen to. That was the one that started it all, though. Dark Roots of Earth from, I believe it was 2014. Really, really awesome album. It was one of my favorites for a long time. Dark Roots of Earth is the shit. So it's worth it to hear me and Cooper just gush over that album.
It's always awkward when we get to talk positively about things, isn't it?
It doesn't feel right. Speaking of me, things I'm going to gush about, we had a change in the schedule, and it turns out it wasn't a necessary change, but such is my life. So I moved up our on trial for the movie Spun, which we're doing for no other reason than I wanted to talk to Sean about meth. So, so this is an old movie.
Well, that'll go somewhere.
So this is a movie from a ways back from when I was really into film. It stars Mira Sorvino, Jason Schwartzman, Brittany Murphy. What's his face from The Wrestler and The Expendables? Help me. Mickey Rourke, John Leguizamo, and yeah, it's written written from the notes of somebody who spent a few days with a bunch of people on meth.
You're gonna talk about Brittany, who died.
Brittany.
Didn't she die of a drug overdose?
Sure did.
Wasn't it meth?
Might have been. So anyway, I love this movie though, despite all that. And when I told Sean about it, he had never seen it before, and I'm like, oh, we get to just discuss kind of like an indie film from back in my big like film buff days about drugs. These are all of my favorite things. So
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, that is a lot of your favorite things wrapped up into one.
That is right in the center of the Venn diagram. So we'll do an on trial for Spun Thursday. Friday, we've got an alternative commentary for the first Boss Baby movie that me and my kids did. That's to coincide with Boss Baby Family Business. Monsters at Work debuts on Disney Plus. So to coincide with that, I went all the way back to 2013 to pull a review that Jeff Harris and I did of Monsters U. On that same episode, we also reviewed The Lone Ranger, which probably deserves its own on trial.
No, there is no defending.
Yeah, well, either way. So you can look for that. Saturday as a re-airing of our Long Road to Ruin for Darkman. We looked at those 3 movies. And then on July 4th, we have a re-airing. Rob, you'll remember this one. Independence Day Resurgence.
My camera seems to have frozen, so I'm not going. So you can't see the obscene gestures I'm making about that movie.
So yeah, we'll re-air our review of just in time for Independence Day. We'll re-air our review of Independence Day Resurgence, and then in the evening, Sean and I are going to do a triple threat. My God, I can't talk. A triple feature of video game movies. The new one, Werewolves Within, which we talked about, is in theaters now. Will be on VOD either today or tomorrow. Hitman, based on the video game, and Tekken, based on the video game. That's it. That's all I got. You can check in the archive for all the stuff we did last week. All the re-airs of our Fast and Furious stuff. It's all there in the archives. We're on YouTube. We're on all the podcatchers. Wherever you're listening to this, if you want to listen to it somewhere else, I'm sure we're there too. You can follow me on Twitter at Mark Radulich, Facebook, and go ahead. And if you want to stay up to date on what it is we're doing, in case you don't hear the latest podcast where we announce it all, you can check it out on the Facebook, the Radulich and Broadcasting Facebook. Plus, I'm now updating the W2M webpage. Lucky me. So go ahead and check that out for all of our podcasts and written reviews. Robert Winfree, your camera has frozen, but I'm sure you have not. Go ahead.
If you can still hear me, I can
hear you just fine. Go ahead and do plugs.
All right. Last Saturday, I covered a UFC event. It was UFC on ESPN Plus 48. You can hear my full review of that. You can find my written review in the MMA Zone of 411mania.com. You can find my thoughts on the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, which I host. It's a lot of that this week. A little bit of boxing talk because Gervonta Davis moved up to 140 pounds and became a champion there when he stopped Mario Barrios in the 11th round.
It's the one fight I didn't watch. I watched the one on DAZN and I watched the ESPN fight.
You missed out on probably the best one because Barrios and Davis have a pretty good fight.
Yeah, I didn't want to spend money on it.
That's fair. I also talked a little bit about Vasily Lomachenko defeating Masayomi Nakatani. I'm probably misremembering that gentleman's first name. He just abused that poor guy for 9 rounds.
Like a government mule, he did.
So I talk a little bit about that. There is no UFC event this week because it is too close to the 4th of July. Let's see. Monday, I covered AEW Dark Elevation in the wrestling zone of 411 Mania.
Hang on. You don't have any UFC this weekend?
I do not.
Hey, Chris Colbert's fighting Eurokius Gamboa on Showtime.
I don't know either of those people, so the answer is no.
Oh, damn you. And the heart you wrote in on. Go ahead and finish.
Look, you find a fight worth watching, and I'll do it with you. You're telling me it's 2 washed up former guys near the title picture, but never really got over the hump? I don't care.
Fair enough.
Let's see. Tonight, actually, I will be reviewing whatever MLW releases. They're re-airing old underground stuff. They're coming back on July 10th with their whatever their relaunch is going to be. So in the meantime, they're just re-airing old stuff that I cover. And Friday, I covered WWE SmackDown in the Wrestling Zone of 411 Mania. Edge returned last week. Yay, Edge. So be on the lookout for that, boy, SmackDown is. SmackDown has the best thing in professional wrestling in Roman Reigns. It also has no supporting character. It has no support staff.
All right, folks, that's it. That's our near 2-hour review of this monstrosity. I need to go do something else now. So
this is the type of movie that when you're done watching it or talking about it or thinking about it, you need to do something that actually has value with your life to try and remind yourself that life has purpose and meaning.
Here's the last thing I'm going to say before I say the actual outro. And I know you're going to agree 110% with me, so you don't even need to comment. Universal, take your time shooting F10. Take a few years. Take more than a few years. Let's let the actors go do something else. Just let's not do this again for a while, okay? Let's go away. How can I miss you if you won't go away? And I need to not think about this franchise for a while. So with that said, I want to thank Robert Winfree for joining me on this journey, for having the patience to try this 3 fucking times. Until next time, be well, be safe, and behave.